Good morning, everybody. I will not mention you one by one. All stakeholders that are here receive our greetings. As the Mutapo has already said, we're going to cover 3 topics. CETA, which is something that has been on the news, and as far as matters, and we'll end with the policy framework of for internalization of higher education in South Africa. So with CETAs, I think we all know that the process to appoint the CETA accounting authority has been a matter of public interest for a while now. Want to update that the minister finished the committee with a list of the independent panel members for the appointment of CETAs, NSFAS, NSA, University Council and TVET College Councils, with some names on the list still concealed. The independence of the panel was questioned last week, Wednesday, given that the names on the list of the minister's advisors, chief of staff in the office of the minister, and departmental officials. One of the people on the list has already denied that he was ever part of the panel, which raises more questions. The committee deliberated on the matter and resolved that 1, the minister is legislatively obligated to finish parliament with the outstanding names of the panelists who were concealed on the submitted list. 2, to write to all the panel members to submit communications or correspondence between themselves and the minister, including the acceptance to the panel to be a panelist, terms of reference given by the minister in respect of the expected roles as panel members, remuneration, if any, for the services rendered in their capacity as panel members, number of meetings attended by each panel member, the minutes of all meetings of the selection and evaluation proceedings, a report that was submitted and sent to the National Skills Authority for consultation purposes. 3, we further resolved that the minister will be invited and all panelists to appear before the portfolio committee and account on the appointment process of the CETA Accounting Authority chairpersons. The committee will identify a suitable date to convene this meeting. I think I must indicate that we don't have a date as yet because Parliament is seized with the process of adopting budgets, and therefore for the next 2 weeks, this Wednesday, we're dealing with the strategic plans of the department and APPs, and the following week we ought to adopt the report that will be debated in Parliament the following day with a view of adopting the budget. So the committee is looking at the program, and we will apply to the office of the chair of chairs when we have identified the date. We had identified one which was this Friday, but because of the work of Parliament, we could not get that particular date approved for us. Under NSFAS remains an important entity in South Africa as it redresses past injustices by ensuring that students from the poor and working class families can access education and training. It is a key instrument to the eradication of poverty. To the eradication of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. NSFAS has contributed more than 5 million university graduates to this country's skills pool and the skill support economic growth. Therefore, it is critical to ensure the effective and efficient management and governance of the entity to enable it to perform its functions. At the last meeting with NSFAS on the 7th of May 2025, the committee was concerned about the non-payment of private accommodation providers and its impact on small businesses, delays in finalization of appeals provisionally funded status since January and accreditation of private accommodations. Delays in the payment of TVET colleges resulted in banning of the admin block at the Northern Cape Urban TVET College. I think it's important to maybe explain that because some people, when we ask that why is NSFAS not paying accommodation providers, some naughty people in this industry say that we probably have been paid by accommodation providers. I want to just clarify that in the committee there's no one who gets paid by accommodation providers, but this is the impact that it has on the lives of our students. So when NSFAS does not pay accommodation providers, many of them which are small businesses, it will mean that these small businesses will not be paying or servicing their bonds because many of them don't own this, or they would have taken they would have taken loans to upgrade this accommodation to the standards that is needed. So they can't service their bonds, one. Number two, they can't service their debt with municipalities. Number three, they can't buy electricity. They can't pay for Wi-Fi. And therefore, the person who suffers there becomes a student. Many of them, as we speak, wrote May and June examinations, taking cold showers because there was no electricity there, studying at night with their candles because there was no electricity there. They did not have Wi-Fi, so they could not really do proper research. So when we say NSFAS has a responsibility to pay their debts to these people, it's not because we're speaking on behalf of accommodation providers. We're speaking because we know that if they don't pay, if the municipality closes their water, they can't shower, they can't use the toilets because they will not be able to flush those particular toilets. So the dignity of these poor students who are, left at the bottom of that thing there is in question. So when we speak. When we say NSFAS must pay accommodation providers, it's not because we're speaking or we're getting cold drink from these accommodation providers. We don't know them. But the dignity of that poor child who stays in that accommodation is our concern. So since our last meeting, the entity has embarked on provincial roadshows to engage stakeholders. NSFAS says they visited KwaZulu-Natal and engaged with accommodation providers. Issues were identified and are in the process of resolution. NSFAS will also visit other provinces to hold similar engagement. We want to, again, ask NSFAS to expedite this process urgently because there are accommodation providers who have not been paid from last year. In that meeting, we informed them that we had received an email from one of the accommodation providers who lost 80 plus so beds to a bank. The bank auctioned her accommodation because NSFAS owes this particular person from last year. And by the time NSFAS pays this particular person, this person would have lost their property and their income. We don't want others to go through the same thing. So we're asking NSFAS to expedite this process, to finish this process as soon as possible. The entity committed to us that a dedicated team comprising of student accommodation unit members, data specialists, and a disbursement team will be deployed to different provinces in a structured manner. A booking system will be introduced for accommodation providers to schedule sessions with NSFAS teams during their provincial visit to ensure individual attention. We remain resolute that no student should be left behind, and NSFAS should improve its payment systems to to ensure that all legitimate private accommodation providers are paid on time. We're also concerned about, one, the slow pace at which issues that we identified at that meeting of 7 May 2025 are being resolved. Non-payment of student accommodation providers that would have meant what I've explained earlier on, that no service of bonds, municipal debts, card service provided to students such as Wi-Fi and all of that. Since the meeting of the 7th of May, we've received complaints from both students and institutions that NSFAS has gone ahead and defunded more students on some technicalities. Students were defunded on the basis of late receipt of registration data from universities, which is not of their doing. So NSFAS says if an institution does not give NSFAS registration data of students by a certain date, they've got no choice but to defund that particular student. So this is a communication between NSFAS and institutions. But the people who are being punished are students. So it's not something we've told them on our meeting, in our meetings of the 7th of May. We'll continue to tell them. We don't think that's something that they must continue to. You can't punish a student who can't give you the registration data because you don't want to take it from students. You want it from an institution. You and institutions don't have a good communications. La Blutigana between NSFAS and university, and a student must suffer. It's not something that we're going to accept. We've told NSFAS that we're not going to do that because the students will incur outstanding debt because they are registered as we speak. Their certificates will be withheld after completion and they will not be able to seek employment. NSFAS can subject our students to poverty, unemployment, and inequality, which the government is trying to eradicate. We must say that we're extremely worried about the operations at NSFAS because of all these matters fall under that particular department. It's not the only thing. Sometimes it's June now. I can tell you that there are matters of appeals that have not been resolved in June, which doesn't make sense. So if you resolve an appeal in July, and that student is already home, already went home because they could not get in accommodation, they probably in the Western Cape at home is in Eastern Cape or in Gauteng. They've got nowhere else to stay because you have not resolved their appeals. The institution can't give them accommodation. So you are subjecting them to all manner of bad things. So by the time you resolve the appeal in July, August, they are no longer there. And then the following year when they're supposed to come, you tell them about N+ rule. So NSFAS can be technically excluding our students and subjecting them to this poverty and employment and inequality. On internationalization of higher education as it pertains to attracting and retaining international challenge, I think it's important to start by saying that South Africa has legislation and policies that govern and regulate how our institution should implement internationalization activities, especially when attracting and retaining international talent. The first legislation I want to bring you to, it's the Employment Service Act of 2014, Act number 4. Section 8, subsection 2 of the Employment Service Act, which says that the employers must satisfy themselves that there are no other persons in the Republic with suitable skills to fill a vacancy before recruiting a foreign national. This is an act that has been signed, it's a law. So therefore, these institutions of ours who even hire our foreign brothers and sisters, and this is not us being xenophobic. We are not xenophobic. We believe that, in fact, there's a framework which I'm going to read later. We believe as higher education that we can't survive without